when we look at the whole world and we see the things that have been discovered till today, we find that so many wonderful discoveries have been done with respect to the physical world, with respect to life, biology, and with respect to the human consciousness, with respect to the inquiry that has been done in terms of what you are, your consciousness, that is philosophy and psychology, the conscious mind and the subconscious, and neurology, study of the brain, and at every step it has gone into a lot of details. But the interesting thing is that all this rests upon certain fundamentals. Let's think of these subjects like physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, history, geography, political economy, philosophy, psychology, and arts. So what do we study in physics? In physics, one of the main core concepts, we have motion, in which the core concepts are inertia, gravity, Newton's laws of motion, and how gravity came from a lot of actual observations of the sky, of planets, of universes, stars, and slowly we came to understand that there is a certain mechanism which is working, and that is gravity and the m1 m2 r square. So when you have m1 m2 r square and you have these Newton's laws and you have the concept of inertia, where you abstract out the concepts and you get to know the whole universe, and that is a basic essence of mechanics. Then they start applying it. They applied it in civil engineering, and the further challenges they had when they applied it in civil engineering and mechanical engineering, where they had to check out, and other principles from other disciplines came in, so that led to the engineering sciences. But this is the essence. Once you get the essence and you are clear about the essence, then these fundamental principles are used. So the inventions which came from mechanics is rockets maybe, and of course with other sciences mixed in it. So if you imagine a rocket and how we went to the moon, so definitely we required gravity, we required to know the escape velocity, we required to know how to propel it, and then again we required a lot of knowledge of the things there. So we don't have to know everything, but if you broadly know physics, chemistry and mathematics, you can almost guess and almost sense the logic, not in particular details of course, but in a broad sense that there's a certain sense of it and there's a beauty in each of the inventions. So once you cover all that, all the physics, chemistry, biology and maths concepts, then we'll understand technology as a union and a mixing of these elements, essences, into particular applications. So you have physics, and then in physics you have motion, then you have heat. In heat, the core concepts are specific heat and change of state, how the state changes from one state to another. And these are all inductive. It is how the world works. So you have heat and temperature and specific heat and latent heat. Things are happening on the macro level. And the micro level is the jiggling and wiggling of atoms and the kinetic theory of gases and thermodynamics. And those concepts come in, and the whole measurements of that, they come in heat. Then in the light, sound, you have frequency and the connection between pressure and frequency, waves, how the waves are created, and these led to definitely to applications like mics and all that. And then you have heat, sound and mechanics, and then you have light. And light is what is visible in the eye, so we get the structure of the eye, the lenses and the reflection, refraction, and also the wave property of the light, which is also used. There's a certain way by which the light also has a wave property. And for a macro level, you can use it like rays. The wave property doesn't come into action. So you have electricity, charges, batteries, motion of charges creating magnetic fields, and the change of magnetic field creating electric fields and the electromagnetic waves. So these are the core concepts in electricity and magnetism. And then you have atomic structure, and there's a whole development which is there in the intermediate textbook, very well developed whole atomic structure, how stepwise from Dalton to Avogadro hypothesis and the mole concept, and then to Rutherford and to Thomson, Bohr, and the whole mystery at this and that level which is there, and which James Elias has made very clear. So this is the atomic structure. So Then you have nuclear physics. On the nucleus, you have fusion reactions, radioactivity, how these alpha, beta, gamma rays are ejected. These are all facts. And then you have electronics and how you have this transistor which works as a switch or an amplifier. And you have communications and how these electromagnetic waves are used in communication. Now, once you have this as your whole, and you have chemistry, then the reactions that take place, the whole periodic table and the Aufbau principle and how the reactions take. So from atomic structure it goes on to chemical bonding, the various kinds of bonds, and the measurements of it, the stoichiometry and all that. So that leads to, so this is the whole fundamental concepts of physics, chemistry, biology. And the biology again applies physics and chemistry to the cell and the tissues and the whole parts of the body and all the chemical reactions that take place and neurons and the whole incredible laws that govern the biological world and how the biological world actually functions precisely. So there's a huge complexity here. This huge complexity has been reduced into so from learning we got this concept from the reality of the world, and we now bring it back for a purpose. So what are the purposes? Suppose you look at a car and you have this whole, if you ask a mechanic, he'll tell you which are the parts there, compressors, which are the parts there, buildings, bridges. So there's a very, even there the core concepts are simple, but they're into details from these fundamental concepts where you mix these principles and create a product. They didn't come from the air or from some magic or something. And you have lights. What are the inventions we have? We have lights, TV, radio, communication systems, pharmacy, medicine, surgeries. All these are fantastic things which actually have logic behind. In each field there is a logic which governs and which can be learned. But it has not been learned by most people. Most people do a more compartmentalized job. But it is a knowledge which is available. And there are people, of course, who use it and they create products and services. And a few, of course, the 2%, they create these products. And along with this, we have this humanities, the sciences studying man, and you have this philosophy, inquiry into fundamental questions. Then you have psychology, and there's a lot of mystery still associated with it. There's no final answer that Aristotle was right, because there are other mystical philosophies and they are ruling the masses. So there's a big gap between the masses and the people who know and the people who don't know. And this gap which we see is very unfortunate, but this is the gap which is the world. The world is the gap between people who know and people who don't know. And the people who don't know, they by default, they follow the tribal rules, and they live less than fully what they can. But implicitly, there's a certain improvement in them, and there's a certain mechanism by which each person is able to live his life, because he's after all in reality. So implicitly, I think we are all basically same. But in terms of conscious knowledge and conscious awareness of things, we are different. So this is the humanity. So you have history and all the religions and the sciences and how it came about and how the wars happened, and these are realities, the realities of foolishness of man, and that is what you see in front of you clearly, that this is what is happening in the world, how these fundamental questions are used, and that is humanities. And arts is about concretization of your philosophies. So you have music, dance and drama. In music you have notes and different ways by which you combine notes, and that serves a function to give you pleasure, and that's also a fact. So if you notice, knowledge is something like facts, but an average man doesn't know all these facts. Where the bridge has to come is the average man listens to music. He knows music exists. He knows all these inventions exist. He knows that there's a certain logic in it, but a certain depth he misses. That's all. It's not that he is completely ignorant. He's also aware of this world, and in this world he's aware where he is, what he is, but his functioning is limited to the concretes around him or to some part knowledge and implicit awareness of the world. So education does touch upon all this. So he knows that there is a certain, when he looks at some biology or some whale, he knows there's a certain most of the people know almost everything in a way. When they see movies, they know what is a story. They know they react to stories. When they see, so that's arts. When they listen to music, they react to it. Certain areas are slightly they're not aware so much about certain areas, but most of the people know that there is something called music, something called dance, and there's a certain minimum level of appreciation they can do. What do they miss? They miss the finer, more sublime level and the more conceptual level. So that sublimity, maybe they miss when they listen to something. But if provided they can respond, so people can respond to art if provided and explained. People can respond. They don't understand fully the science, but they know that somewhere it is linked. But because they don't know it consciously as knowledge, they can't take any leadership roles, and they're happy given their certain minimal enjoyment of life, and which is popularly given to them. So the knowledge is retained by few, and the majority of the people go by the entertainment which is provided to them, and that is a slow evolution which takes place. You sometimes have good movies, and certain people are aware to a certain. Nowadays, people are more aware of at least the basics of where the world is, and that is what Steven Pinker tried to explain. But major factor in the whole world is that there is a certain good and evil fight where people are used or people are inflamed to act in bizarre ways, and there is definitely averageness in which there's both good and evil, and the emotions, people start acting on emotions. Definitely there is a lot of corruption in the mind and in the heart, and that's what the religions try to correct. But there's a certain innate goodness which everybody today has, and everybody is busy living and making a living. So there's a certain discipline which is there, has just been there for a long time. So human beings actually live. Every human being lives out his life doing something, creating a family, having a certain life, and living a long life, and giving it meaning. And they take their lives for granted, but implicitly this whole knowledge has percolated that to them in an implicit way. So knowledge is maybe the implicit thing which we all know made explicit, so that they gain a greater power. So people do have a power, but they're not confident about what they know, and they're more commonsensical and conforming not in a serious way, but because that's what everybody believes, they start believing that. So definitely there is conformity. I think there's a certain level of vanity, and conformity is linked to gaining approval of the group and the tribe. So that kind of behavior is there in people where they conform, but they are part individuals and part conformists. They can't be totally conformist. So there's a certain battle which happens in people's minds, and they don't find much meaning, because unless you use your mind into action, that you are not happy. So people miss out on that. So that's where the education can help them to bridge the gap, get more enlightenment in terms of knowledge.